guys. Good morning. Welcome to Wellness Week. I worked really hard on my PowerPoint for today. You guys want to see it? You guys want to see my PowerPoint?
Yeah!
All right, here it is. All right, I spent a lot of time, most of my time coming up with the content for this topic, rocking my little baby boy, just like this. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to give most of my speech today just doing this. That's cool. Hope that's not distracting. Can you handle that? No, I'm not going to do that. Okay, wow, how many more jokes are going to buy? It's awesome. Okay, well, I want to start off by telling you a story, thing that happened to me when I was in Japan. We had several language teachers, and one of our teachers' names was Honda Sensei. Yes, like the car, the Honda. Honda Sensei was very Yoda-esque. She was about that same height. She was about 700 years old. She had a weepy eye. She was always wiping her eye. Oh, this. And she talked like the witch from, The Princess Bride. You know, she's like, I'm not a witch, I'm your wife, and I'm not sure I want to be that anymore. You know, so this was our teacher. She was awesome. She was very strict. Which helped us learn a lot, right? So she's trying to help us to learn to talk about our families in Japanese. So she's going around the table asking each of us to tell about our family. And so she says, "Men, tell me about your family. Joel, tell me about your family. John, tell me about your..." And she gets to Crimson, the woman on our team, and she says, "Crimson, tell me about your family." And so Crimson does. She explains it all. And her family is kind of messed up. I mean, like, all kinds of messed up. But she was explaining all of this to our teacher. Well, next week, Crimson wasn't feeling well, so she didn't come to class. And our teacher thought that, Hana Sensei thought that she had offended Crimson. That's her name, Crimson. She's like, "Oh, I have offended Crimson. I'm so sorry." And we're like, trying to convince her, no, you didn't offend Crimson. She's just not feeling well. But she wouldn't believe us. So next week, Crimson came back to class. She's feeling fine. And Hana Sensei is apologizing up and down. She's like, "I'm so sorry. I have offended you. Oh." And Crimson's like, no. It's really okay. I just wasn't feeling well. And she said, and I am not making this up, she said, "I know, but in America, I know it's not polite to touch the private parts." Like, oh, don't laugh. She seriously said that. We're like, "Oh my goodness, the private parts." How embarrassing. Well, today we're talking about inner wellness, and to talk about the things, to talk about the things that are on the inside, okay? To talk about the stuff that's private to us, our own inner demons, the things that we think, the things that we struggle with. This place is a very vulnerable place. It's very intimate. And we tend to keep that away from other people and just to ourselves. So, to say what inner wellness is, maybe it's a good idea for a minute to say what the opposite of inner wellness is, which you all know the technical term for that is inner not wellness. And for me, I think my own inner wellness, this list could go on a long time, but there's a lot that is there. I have a lot of fears. I have fears of failing. Failing my family, failing in my career, failing just socially. My parents are divorced. And so that's an area that's really hard. I've been struggling and working toward forgiving them for over 10 years. And that's a really difficult thing. That's an area of unwellness in my life that I'm trying to work through. I get really frustrated at the littlest things. sometimes. If I'm going somewhere and I miss my exit, why in the world does that like just drive me nuts and make me mad? I don't know. It does. It just frustrates me like crazy. I'm afraid of, having to give a speech and going completely blank, and then there's just terrible, awkward silence because I can't remember what's next. Anyway, I need a lot of help, okay? I have a lot of areas in my life where it's not well yet, where I struggle. It's not just sin, it's areas of woundedness and fear and doubt that all make up these parts of me that aren't well yet. So then what is inner wellness? Well, for me, my bias, my perspective is from a spiritual angle. And I think that inner wellness is a way of looking at the world. It's a way of being in the world where you are completely free. Totally free. Unencumbered by shame, by guilt, by fear, regret, anger, unforgiveness. Just free of all that because at your core, you have an abiding, all-pervasive, experiential knowledge that you are, as Henry Nouwen says, the chosen child of God, precious in God's eyes, and called the beloved from all eternity. To me, that's what inner wellness is. So what are some practices? What are some practices that can help us get to this place called inner wellness? Crystal asked me to tell you guys the best practices for inner wellness. Gosh, no pressure there. Okay, wow. If I knew the best practices for inner wellness, I would probably be a multimillionaire, author and speaker, and I would donate lots of money to York College to build a giant water slide in Jared Stark Memorial Field. But alas, I do not probably know the best practices to get us toward inner wellness, but I would like to offer you just a few practices that may point us in that direction. So, to begin with, I think what we need to do is realize that inner wellness is not something that we do on our own. We can't. And I want to encourage all of us, college students, adults, to find someone that you trust, that you can share your life with, that you can talk about what is going on with you, to confess, to talk about your dreams, to talk about all those things that I shared, fears, doubts. You need someone to process this with, and someone that's familiar with the spiritual journey. Find one of those people. Spend time with them. That's number one. Wow, we're already done. Number one. Number two is to be in community with other people. Again, this is not something that we can do on our own. So find some people who are on this journey with you, that are also wanting to move into a greater awareness, a greater experience of your belovedness in God. And practice and do life with those people. You need people in your life who are constantly telling you the truth, who can say to you, you are God's beloved daughter. He delights in you. You need people in your life to consistently, constantly say that to you and to move together toward greater wellness. Number three, I would suggest to practice silence. Practicing silence can be one of the most revelatory things in your life. And for all of us, our experience of silence is going to be a little bit different because we all have different experiences. Our lives are completely different. It just kind of makes me think of Harry Potter. Yeah. You remember that scene in Harry Potter where I think Snape is the teacher. You can correct me if I get this wrong. Snape is the teacher, and he's trying to teach them how to defeat Bogarts. right? So he lets the Bogart out of the box, and the Bogart takes the shape of whatever they're most afraid of. Is this right, Crystal?
Lupin.
Lupin! Thank you, Lupin. Resident Harry Potter genius here. Okay, so it's Lupin. And so whatever comes out of the box takes the form of their greatest fear. You know, whether it's a spider or... Oh, Snape. Snape was Harry's?
Neville's.
Neville! You guys are awesome. Okay. Neville's greatest fear. Okay, so whatever their greatest fear, the Bogart took the shape of that. And they would have to face it, and they would say, they would imagine something silly on it, and they would say, ridiculous! And they would be able to defeat it. Okay? Well, that's kind of what our time in silence is like, strangely enough. Because we all face certain things in silence. We face ourselves, we face our fears. We often don't like spending time in silence because, I mean, let's be honest, we don't like ourselves a lot of the time. And we have to face that. And if you spend time with God in silence, you can begin to look at those fears, those things that you don't like, and say, that's ridiculous. I am God's beloved son. I am God's beloved daughter. So I want to challenge you maybe to take up that practice of silence. Spend 20 minutes in silence a day and see what God does in your heart in that time, what God reveals to you. Fourth, I would encourage us to possibly practice detachment. Okay, open this up a little bit. Can you guys name some things that we're attached to?
Possessions.
Possessions. Technology. Those were two really good ones. Anything else? Self-image. Wow, that's a good one. Okay, well there's a lot. Maybe I should define detachment a little bit for us. Detachment means, and I really like how I wrote this, so I'm going to read it verbatim. It's pretty awesome. So detachment means replacing the attachment to idolatrous relationships and replacing the attachment to self-serving goals and agendas for success, money, power, ego, productivity, and image with wholehearted attachment to and trust in God alone. I'm going to continue reading. Adele Calhoun says this about detachment. We often refuse relinquishment or detachment and remain blind to our attachments. We fail to see how our children or our goals for them and ourselves become the most important things in our lives, receiving the bulk of our time, money, and resources. We ignore our fixed attachment to our identity and how it is represented in our drive for possessions, control, comforts, and attachments. We avoid any mini deaths of relinquishment that we possibly can. Detachment extends into the core of our identities, securities, and addictions. And it says, for the love of Jesus, I'm going to let go. It is only through letting go of the control streak that true trust in Jesus is born. As Jesus' apprentices, we are to detach from the accolades of the world and receive ourselves as God's beloved. Detachment finds its true home in attachment to Jesus only. End of quote. So how can we practice this? A couple suggestions. One, practice letting go by giving away something that you're attached to. Just notice the feelings that come up when you do that. Or even notice the feelings that come up when you think about giving something away that you own. Think about giving away a device or a shirt that you like. What does that feel like? And then spend time talking to God about how attached you are to your things. A second practice for detachment could be talk to God and giving God an opportunity. One of those awkward moments. So we want to give God an opportunity to help us become detached from secondary things. So some of these things might be sharing your car, sharing your home, your time, or your expertise. Try doing that. Try sharing something of yours with someone this week. Okay, and finally, number 5, serving others. And this might seem strange because we're talking about inner wellness. What about my wellness inside? Well, our humanity is inextricably linked with others. In South Africa, their idea of personhood is called Ubuntu, and that means people are people through other people. We're not just these single, solitary individuals, all on our own. It's through others that we really have our humanity and our personhood. So when you are diminished, then I'm diminished. When you are lifted up, then I'm lifted up. We all know how it feels to serve others. I mean, this is an incredible group of people who's, I think, constantly serving other people. Going out and doing LST trips and mission trips and serving at the mission in town. And constantly, we have service clubs, for crying out loud. We're always serving each other, right? So you know how it feels. It's amazing. And it's kind of mysterious, too. I spent all this time helping this person, and somehow I feel better. I feel more whole and well. So Teresa of Avila says that, if we truly want to grow in our inner life, then it can't just be these inner self practices, which are good, just of prayer and of reading and me all by myself. We have to practice the gospel of self-giving love as well. So how can we practice this virtue, this practice of serving? Try this. Every morning for the next 2 weeks, ask your roommate or your spouse or your colleague, what can I do for you today? And then do it. And then talk to God about how it felt and what that experience was like. I think I can safely say that we all want to see change happen in our world. We see a world that's so broken, that's full of violence, full of inequity, injustice. And we look at that and it breaks our heart and we think, why doesn't somebody do something? We need to do something. And we want it so badly. But I want to leave you with this quote from Richard Rohr and the thoughts that he shares here. If you want others to be more loving, choose to love first. If you want a reconciled outer world, then reconcile your own inner world. If you are working for peace out there, create it inside as well. If you wish to find some outer stillness, find it within yourself. If you want to find God, then honor God within you, and you will always see God far beyond you also. So, may you take these practices that I've shared today, may you take them with courage, with patience, with God walking beside you and in you, and may they, in some small way, help lead you to a place of greater inner wellness.